Eventually happened is, here you are a Knights Templar, and I am a Shriner, a Muslim Shriner, and we are both protecting the same building, because the building is sacred to you for Jesus, and it's sacred to me because of Abraham and Muhammad. Muhammad making his ascension called Isra over there. So now, we're there for the same reason. Eventually what happens is we start playing chess, because we're idle. We're sitting there, and we start exchanging conversations, and then we start discussing the scripture. And then these so-called Catholics, because there was no Baptists then, no Lutherans, started debating with the Muslims, and the Muslims with them, and they found out that they had more in common than they thought. They didn't know there was whole surahs or chapters in the Quran about Mary. They didn't know that was there by Immaculate Conception, and how Jesus was the Kalim Allah, the Word of Allah, and the Ruhu Allah, and the Spirit of Allah, and Jesus was exalted in this world and the hereafter, and Jesus spoke for it. They didn't know that was in the Muslim doctrine. All they heard was the cry, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and let's go kill people. So as they started to meet, then some of the Knights of Templar became inquisitive about Islam, wanting to know more. They wanted to learn more about the prayer, and the adhan, and the iqamah, and the muqtadi. And they tell them, well, before you do that, you got to take shahada. Shahada is a word meaning bearing witness. You got to take shahada that you worship one God and that God alone and have no partners with that God. That's no big deal because they basically believe that. So they took shahada and they started coming into the temple. It was allowed now in the masjids with the Muslims, as long as they respected it. They knew that they wasn't devout. Some of the Templar started learning the Arabic language and starting to read the Quran in the language. They became the original Shriners. The story that the Caucasians give about beating in a restaurant and all that stuff is something they made up. You follow? They became the original Shriners there. That's the first time Caucasians or non-Arabs were allowed to wear the symbol. You're right? And to be introduced to a small portion of the doctrine. They were given certain stories as symbols to test their loyalty. And they were given certain trials and certain what you might call examinations to see how firm they were, before certain secrets could be passed on to them about the truth about Jesus, and the truth about Mary, and the truth about Judas. You follow? And some of these men took that oath. Eventually, the French Foreign Legion is formed. You follow what I'm saying? And these are supposed to be the French Orient who have now converted to Islam. And they're there protecting the deserts. Now they're converting from France, they're converting from Britain, they're coming in from Ireland, they're different ones. And they're basically Catholics. But they are adhering to the Islamic principles because they had to respect the Islamic law. You never put your foot up in front of a person. You never do this. When you meet the person, you say, Assalamu alaikum. And so what does that mean? They said the same thing Jesus said in the upper room when he came and he said, peace be upon you. So, Assalamu alaikum. So that's how that ends up in the shrine of part of the doctrine. I can't go into the rituals, I can't tell you everything, but in certain rituals, certain stories are enacted that can be found in Siratul Islamiyah. In the history of Islam, you can find everything. You follow?